Okay, let's get started with this new chapter. This is the muscular system, as you can see here, chapter 10. So let's see what we have right here. So if we scroll down, we can see here that obviously the muscular system is a composition, it's a group of muscles basically, and you have in here the main functions of muscles. Movement, obviously, they allow us to move. Stability, they muscles maintain or help us maintain our posture. Control of body openings. I don't think I need to explain much about it. Heat production, when we are cold, we start shivering, and that obviously is the function of the muscles, right, in order to increase the temperature. And the muscles allow us to control the levels of glucose because we consume the glucose in relatively high amounts because we are going to use them. Okay, let's continue here. So we have connective tissues and fascicles. Okay, so basically a group of muscle fibers are going to be surrounded by endomysium. When you put together all the muscle fibers, as you can see here, all these muscle fibers, you're going to wrap them around with perimysium in order to form a fascicle. Then you have fascicle, 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 fascicle. So a group of fascicles are going to be surrounded with the epimysium around here. And the epimysium is going to be surrounded by fascia. Fascia basically separates this muscle from another muscle from another muscle. We're going to see this in a little bit more detail later on. So what are the different type of connective tissue membranes that we have? Then, as you can see in here, is endomysium, perimysium, and epimysium. In addition to those three, you have fascias. Okay, so don't forget to take a look at this. And again, we're going to see this again later on. Fascicles and muscle shapes. Believe me, I'm not going to ask you what the muscle shape is in your exam. I think that's pretty obvious, and this is way too simple to explain what these are. Obviously, it's singular, it's orbicularis. If it's like a biceps, it's fusiform. Believe me, I don't think this is something that is important. Shape of muscles. Okay, muscle compartments. This is basically to say that you have muscles in the front, muscles on the side, muscles on the back, muscles in the middle. So they call them this, instead of saying the muscles are in the front and the back, they say muscle compartments. Okay, again, that's just a general concept that you don't need to know much about it, or it's not that important, it's not that critical to know. Muscle attachment, this is something different, and this is something that you need to know. Most of the muscles are I shouldn't have said that. All the muscles are attached to the skeleton. All the muscles that are attached to the skeleton are called skeletal muscles. Are skeletal muscles the only muscles that we have? No, we also have cardiac muscle and a smooth muscle. A smooth muscle you find, for example, in your hollow organs, such as your stomach. Cardiac muscle is found in your heart, right? And as you can understand, I'm sure that you know that obviously neither of these two organs are attached to bones. So therefore, that's why one of them is called smooth, the other one is going to be called cardiac, and we're going to talk about those later on. But the one that we are focusing on now is these muscles that they are called skeletal muscles because they all are attached to your skeleton. In order to perform a movement, these skeletal muscles must be attached to your bones in two different points. As you can see here, for example, the biceps is attached in this bone, humerus, and this bone right here, your radius, for example. Okay, so it has 2 points of attachment. So if you really think about it, if you flex your arm, you don't move your humerus, you move your radius, right? Your radius will move this way when you flex your arm. So out of the 2 points of attachment, this one in your humerus doesn't move, this one in your radius will move. Right? Because again, when you flex, it goes this way. So this one moves, this one doesn't move. Okay, so therefore the attachment that moves is called insertion. The attachment that doesn't move is called origin. Okay, so then how many points of attachment you have to have? At least 2. One of them is going to be called origin, which is the one that doesn't move, and the other one is going to be the attachment that moves, that is going to be the insertion. Okay, so let's keep scrolling down, and then you have different kinds of how the muscles attach to the bones. Some of them are aponeurosis, retinaculum. I mean, this is just common terms that you don't necessarily need to know. Origins and insertions, we already talked about it. And functional groups. Okay. So for example, if we go scroll back up, when you flex your arm, the main muscle for flexing the arm is going to be the biceps. Therefore, this is the prime mover. However, the flexion happens only because you flex this or you contract this muscle. No, you also receive the help of these other muscles that you have in here, for example, brachialis. So then this one helps. So the prime mover is the muscle that drives the movement, in this case, the biceps. But this one helps. So this one is called a synergist, which is basically means that it enhances or it helps this other muscle in order to perform the movement. And this is going to be a synergist, and it's going to be an agonist muscle because it helps this one to perform the movement. Now, this other muscle is called the triceps. The triceps is going to be an antagonist because it's going to do the opposite of what these muscles are going to do. If you pay attention to your body, you always have two main sets of muscles, one in the front and one in the back. If you look at your legs, you have muscles in the front, you have muscles on the back. When some groups contract, the other muscles relax. Okay, so then that's why they're called agonists and antagonists. So what is the biceps? The prime mover. What is the brachialis? Synergist or agonist because it helps this muscle in order to perform the flexion. What is the triceps, the one on the back? That's an antagonist because it's going to do the opposite to what this one is doing. And you always have to do that because imagine that you contract the biceps and you contract the triceps at the same time. Then no movement will happen. So for that reason, this is going to be basically agonist. These ones are going to be antagonists. Out of the agonists, you have this one, which is the main muscle for the flexion. So this one is going to be called prime mover. And these ones are going to be synergists because they are actually going to help with the flexion movement. Okay? So let's keep scrolling down then. And that's basically what we have right here. Insertion and origin, we already talked about it. Functional groups, depending on the action, we said prime mover, synergist, antagonist. We already talked about that. I already explained that to you. Fixator is a set of muscles that are going to help you maintain the muscles in place when you are performing a movement. For example, if you contract this muscle and you have 2 points of attachment, then chances are that this can move, but also this would be able, this one, the origin, would be able to move. How come this doesn't move? Because then you have muscles around this area that are attached to your scapula that are going to fix this point, therefore this point will not move. So these muscles that you have in here, for example, are the rhombus major, rhombus minor. Those are going to fix this bone right here, therefore they're going to fix this origin right here, and this area will not move when you flex your arm, and this is going to be the only one that is going to move. So those are fixators, and that's what you have right here. So let's keep scrolling down. You have prime movers, agonists, antagonists, fixators, intrinsic muscles, extrinsic muscles. Intrinsic muscles are the ones that are working in the area where the movement is happening. Like, for example, the bicep, right? That's an intrinsic because you basically move that muscle. In the case of extrinsic, for example, if you want to move the muscles in your fingers, when you flex your fingers, you don't use muscles in your hands. When you move when you flex your fingers, you move muscles that you have in your forearm. So basically, they're far away from where you're producing the movement. Therefore, that's why they are called extrinsic muscles. Okay, now a very important concept we need to understand is muscle innervation. Muscle innervation basically talks about that you need a nerve in order to move a muscle. Most of the time when you see people that are paralyzed, right, that they can't move their legs, they're in a wheelchair, is it the problem in the muscles or is the problem somewhere else? Obviously, your answer is going to be there's going to be somewhere else, where in the nerves, because you know then that unless that your nerve works together with your muscle will never move. For that reason, muscle innervation means what are the nerves that are going to attach to your muscle in order to make it move. There are different kinds of denominations for the nerves, and that's what you're going to see in the nerve chapter. But in here you can see that you have at least spinal nerves and cranial nerves. Most of the muscles in your body are going to be moved by these two sets of nerves. So just heads up, this is a couple of names that you're going to see when you go to the nerve chapter. Okay, so let's keep scrolling down. Blood supply, obviously like any other cell in your body, what you need in order to survive: oxygen. How are you going to get the oxygen? In this case, how the muscles are going to get the oxygen through the blood, and that's why you have blood supply in there as well. How muscles are named, believe me, you don't need to know how they are named. They are come from Latin, and that's all you need to know. Okay, learning strategy is not for this class, so that's something that you need to do on your own, and that's about it. Okay, the next item in chapter 10 is the muscles. Muscles in the case, if in this case, is going to be muscles of the head and neck. You have the muscles right there. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you which ones are the muscles that you have in your body, right? I mean, this is something you can do by looking at the tables that you have right here. You have frontalis, occipitalis, orbicularis oculi, and all those things, and you need to learn these muscles. Okay, so you need to look at these areas, for example, and you need to tell me what the name of these muscles are and where they are located. So, for example, this one right here is the orbicularis oculi, orbicularis oris, mentalis, depressor labii inferioris, masseter, frontalis, okay, and you have quite a few other muscles in here. Scroll down, you can see here the masseter, temporalis, sternocleidomastoid, so a whole bunch of set of muscles. If you have questions in your exam, the main questions that you're going to get about muscles is going to be which one of these muscles is located in your face, and you're going to find vastus lateralis, gracilis, biceps, triceps, soleus, or masseter. Then obviously masseter is going to be the answer. So you need to know the location of these muscles and maybe the function of the most important muscle. Like, for example, what is the masseter for? That's to chew, right? So those are the ones that you need to know. But main ones, you know, which one is the one that you use to open your mouth? Then it has to be orbicularis oris. And which one is the one you use to open your eyes? Orbicularis oculi. That's about it. That's the most important thing that you need to know. You need to know the location of the muscles. Okay, buccinator. You have again that in there. That's the face. And that's about it for that. You need to know the names of the muscles and the location. That's the main thing that you're going to have in your exam. And another example here, muscles of the trunk. You go right here. Obviously, you have external intercostals, internal intercostals. You have the diaphragm. These are basically in your thorax, and the diaphragm separates your thorax from your abdomen. You keep scrolling down. You go down here. You have muscles in your abdomen, right? Transverse abdominal, external oblique, internal oblique, rectus abdominis. That's what you need to know. My question in the exam is going to be, which one of the following is located in your abdomen? And then, obviously, you will have to pick your answer. That's about it for this. So let's go to the next chapter, chapter 11, muscular tissue. Let's scroll down, and obviously we said that muscles are going to help us with multiple different things, such as movement, control of body openings, heat production, etc., etc. But the cells in the muscles have to have certain characteristics in order to be able to achieve all these functions. And these characteristics that the cells must have are excitability. And one of the first things that I want you to pay attention here is, look, electricity. Another one is conductivity. Why? Because it should be able to conduct electricity. You see it? So electricity is very important. That's something that we're going to be talking about a lot in this chapter. Then obviously the muscle cells must be able to contract in order to allow all the different type of movements that we're going to have with the muscles. They should be able to extend, right? If they are going to be able to contract, then they should be able to extend. That's another characteristic. And then obviously they should be able to have elasticity, because once they extend, they should be able to recoil back. If we look at the skeletal muscle characteristics, we cut the muscle, we put in the microscope, and we look at the characteristic that the muscle cell has, and some of the things that you're going to see in there are going to be that it has striations, which are these lines right here. Okay, that's striations. It has multiple nucleus, as you can see here. Endomysium covers the muscle fiber. Okay, and obviously it's voluntary, right? This is a skeletal muscle, and I said, right, it's skeletal. And we said that the skeletal muscles are attached to the skeleton. Obviously, you can move, you can flex your fingers, you can flex your arm, you can extend your arm, because these muscles are voluntary. If you don't want to do it, you don't do it. Why? Because they're voluntary. Cardiac muscle and smooth muscle are involuntary. So those are main characteristics that we have regarding the skeletal. Also, the skeletal muscle is very long, right? So it's long, and they are called muscle fibers or myofibers, okay, because they are very long. And that's about it for this chapter.